let's by chance you see that you're down, right? Because I think if you're up, cheers, high fives, keep it going. Let's not dig into why we're up. Let's just be up. If you're flat, whatever. When you're down, and if you could find out that the market's up but you're down, what's wrong? What are we doing wrong? And what I often see is not what manufacturers usually chase. They'll chase an alternate problem. When I look at the brands that I see that are up, they have very common similarities that I can see, that if I could just teach the brand how to just change some of their behaviors, they do better. It's a long answer, but we made a market index that now each one of the manufacturers can kind of see how they do against the rest of the brands that use our product.
Welcome to the Automotive Advantage. Grow your business and get smarter in just 1 hour.
All right, today on the podcast, we have Brian Lounsberry. Brian and I overlapped on the SEMA board of directors. You've traveled a lot, but we're in the Detroit area right now. You're one of the world's leading experts on the distribution of high-performance parts and accessories for the automotive industry. You were the CEO of Motovicity. Now you're the CEO of MidwayPlus, which we're going to dive into what that means. But we are super excited that you're here on the Automotive Advantage. Brian, welcome. And did I do a good job introducing you?
Yeah.
Make sure I got things covered for you.
Much nicer than my family would say. And I don't owe any of them money, so they can't say that. But I'm definitely, it's much kinder. Thank you. Well, I'm happy to be here. I hope you guys got some good conversation topics. I'm looking forward to talking. I got a big mouth.
Let's go.
You're watching the market very closely. It's been a very interesting year. We're talking about the automotive aftermarket industry. You have insight that few people have. You're watching commerce real time on your platform, and you're very close with dozens of manufacturers and thousands of shops that are building cars. We had an exchange, one of our early episodes, we talked about our friend John Urist, who was talking to, this is how this is done, talking to a lot of other shops like his, and he said the entire industry is down 20%. And we said that on one of our earlier podcasts this year. You and I had a conversation because of that, and you said, we're actually going to build an index to tell people where the industry is. So you start talking now and tell us where the automotive aftermarket industry is.
It absolutely is down. It is, but it's down for everybody. I mean, if you're up, good on you. It's hard out there. From small brands to big brands, we just started our index. So a lot of the questions that people have as a secondary question, which are curious, they are. We don't have all that ironed out yet because you want to make sure you're reporting the right data. The biggest thing that I set out to solve was this. When I was in wholesale distribution, manufacturers used to call me because I was a really big main contact for a lot of the brands. They would just ask a question, market up, market down. It was constant. It's almost like the first thing, if you sit down and you have equal status with somebody in a brand, right, or manufacturer of some sort, you might say, hi, what kind of wine do you want? Would you like a beer? And the next one is, how's the market doing? And really, you're just trying to figure out if your numbers make sense. So when we put MidwayPlus together, I had this goal of creating an answer to that. And it took us a long time before we had, it was like 3 years before we had enough market share and enough wide range of shops, retailers, and brands consuming product to where we could kind of get a reasonable pulse. I'm not saying we're the end all be all, but we have a pretty reasonable pulse on it. And the main question we wanted to answer was that, how's the market doing? And why I wanted to answer it was, when I look at especially brands, nobody tells you the truth. When you sit down, if I'm a brand that I'm down 20%, I'm asking you, and if you say, oh, we're up 15%, how are you doing? Oh, we're flat.
We're flat, yeah.
I'm not going to tell you the truth. I don't want to look bad. I don't get humiliated. And if I'm up, I might brag, hey, we're having a great time. How are you doing? And you're going to tell me you're flat. I know you're, more than likely you're down. But there's no truth to it. And really the reason why I think you kind of want to know that number, especially for me, is metrics to me are about solving problems. They're not always about bragging. it's much harder to solve the problem to get to the big cool metric, and metrics can lead you down the path. So when the answer we put out there is we normalized about 25 brands use our platform. And I think this year there'll be in gross market value, just meaning representing total dollars that go through it, there'll be about $45 million that goes through it, right? And it's a wide range of buyers because when the manufacturers work directly with their customers, I was a distributor before, I didn't know manufacturers worked with all these different unique people. You get to see the market in a completely different way. There's oil refineries, there's municipalities, there's schools. I mean, what manufacturers sell their product to blew my mind in comparison to what we saw as a wholesale distributor. So I thought it gave a really interesting representation. Plus, it's when the part first moves, right? So it's kind of the trailing arm of where it was first looked at, right? The brand finally makes the transactions, and either they're selling it to their distributor, their retailer, or themselves. So we now can answer that question. And when somebody calls me up and they say, how's the market's doing? I'll just open up my phone and look and go, it looks like it's gonna be about 10% off month over month. And I can finally answer that question. And all of our customers, their executives, they'll ask me if they can be put on a list and we'll just add them to it. And we give out 3 different things to try and help them quantify. Because what I would love nothing, or the most out of it be this. Let's by chance you see that you're down, right? Because I think if you're up, cheers, high fives, keep it going. Let's not dig into why we're up. Let's just be up. If you're flat, whatever. When you're down, and if you could find out that the market's up but you're down, what's wrong? What are we doing wrong? And what I often see is not what manufacturers usually chase. They'll chase an alternate problem. When I look at the brands that I see that are up, they have very common similarities that I can see that if I could just teach the brand how to just change some of their behaviors, they do better. It's a long answer, but we made a market index that now each one of the manufacturers can kind of see how they do against the rest of the brands that use our product.
I have so many questions. But first, let's maybe establish what MidwayPlus is for someone who doesn't know yet, and then how this data comes to be that you have it. So, give me the pitch on MidwayPlus.
So MidwayPlus is a platform. It's a tool. Manufacturers, from what I've witnessed being a distributor, is they have a gap. It's about a 20-year to 10-year gap between being like Apple or Nike, where they can just make a transaction. Because buying B2B or buying B2C should be as easy as you purchasing anything off your phone right now. Now, if you go to any manufacturer and you ask them to do that, probably not going to get that gap filled. And there's so much you have to do to fill that gap. They unfortunately, they'll go buy a new ERP system. They'll go get a CRM. They'll buy a portal to try and solve these things. It's not just those things. It's the architecture. It's the infrastructure, the operations. Because as we were growing the wholesale distributor, this invention came out in 2008, where as we were building the distributor, I said, if the manufacturers had the same tool set, they could do a lot of this themselves. Our product helps the manufacturer create that infrastructure that allows them to service their core customers and even a wider range of customers. To where if you look at a brand and you say, okay, you're doing, example, $1 million wholesale B2B, right? If you grew that to $2 million, how many more people would you have to put on staff? And usually they have to double it. That's not scalable. That's not economical. As a distributor where you're making 12.5% margin, you can't afford to do that. Brands just throw people at problems. We couldn't. We had to make operational solutions. So with our product, that same brand would probably throw nobody at it. So what we did is we took all the tools we had as a distributor that made us efficient, effective, and have the ability to service those customers, and we packaged it up and we put it into a platform that the brands use to work with their customers. That's pretty much what we made.
Give me an example of that. So if I'm a brand that manufactures a widget and I come to you and I'm like, hey, I don't have anything. I'm just selling to some guys right now, but we do $1 million a year, something like that. What would be kind of the things that this would unlock for them?
B2B is usually your lower margin transaction, okay? But it's usually the one that has the most lifting, heavy lifting. Every customer has a different price. This customer gets free freight. This one gets a free cookie if he orders $500. Because every one of those customers you have to negotiate with to get them to support your brand. So you wind up with this Excel sheet that's this long that Janet knows where it's at. Nobody else in the company knows where this thing's at. So you're not efficient, okay? And that efficiency trickles down to you're not fun to purchase from. You're a pain in the ass. And brands then offload that to distributors. And distributors take all those problems and they make them go away. But the brand still has them. So even as a distributor, I purchased and it was frustrating. The biggest thing I ever wanted, just give me an order confirmation. That's all I need. Tell me you got the order. Because I'm trying to time my inventory because I can't stock infinite amounts. I have 15 days of this part, 23 days of this part, 44 days of this part. As soon as you tell me it's confirmed, I start my clock. If you don't tell me, I got to keep hounding you because I need to keep my purchasing system in line. So what we bring you is efficiency and scalability. If you're so lucky at that brand that those widgets take off, right? You'll manage it at first. You'll do just fine. And the next thing you know, you got 14 calls, you got 8 people, and this is usually what happens. The brand gets bigger and they go, oh my God, I can't handle this. Let's go get a distributor. Good idea. Distribution is critical to the infrastructure of this industry. I think every manufacturer should use distribution. I'm a big proponent of it, not only because I came from it, I know how much work we did on the back end to make stuff go through. But you didn't really solve the problem. You're still tough to deal with. Now the distributor has to deal with it. That slows down product purchases. It slows down SKU adoption, news, everything. Brands should focus on being efficient. They care so much about their product, right? Oh, our product's in spec. But their operations looks like a lie detector. It's like this. It's only good once in a while. The rest of the time, it's all over the place. If they could get that into line, all that money's going to drop to the bottom line. They can reinvest it in their company. They can hire critical people. So what you would get is structure. You're going to get infrastructure capability to service those accounts, okay? Instead of scale, break, scale, break, scale, break. The bigger you scale, it will adopt and adapt with you. We have manufacturers that started with us that only sold $200,000 wholesale B2B. They're now doing that in a month. They still have the exact same size staff. And that's what you get with our product.
I love it. One of the things we talk about a lot in this industry is just how amazing it is that so much happens in this industry with such archaic systems in place for most of it, right? And if you were to go into other industries, a lot of this is kind of sorted, or you wouldn't even start up a business without some of this in place. But here in automotive, like, it's just people making stuff and people putting it on cars. And so it's cool to see technology like this come into the space and the efficiency side of it now, right? A lot of people, like you said, it's just a people thing. Oh, I'll hire Janet's buddy and they'll come in and now I'll have 2 Janets and problem solved. And it's like, right, but everything's in a weird, not even in a spreadsheet, it's in a piece of paper or something like that.
When you're running that business, when you add Janet's probably $60K all in, okay? Do you know how much more you have to sell to cover Janet? I mean, you better hope you're getting your money's worth out of that. And now you got to manage Janet. So there's a huge cost you take in there. I'm not saying don't hire people, but I'm saying hire people that increase your company's overall value and sell more product. And you're right about this industry. It's frustrating. It's frustrating because I'll look at a manufacturer. I bought from them. I bought from them for 15 years. I know how they operate. And I'm looking at them going, you have no idea what this would do for you. It would free up time, money, and make your customers happy. And when I share stuff with them, like, they go, well, tell me an outcome that happens. And I said, well, on average, a manufacturer 90 days after they go live with our platform. So we connect into their infrastructure, okay? But we do it in a way that's beneficial to the buyer, not necessarily the brand. The buyer has demands. So when we interconnect, we do things very on purpose coming from our wholesale side. The brands are selfish. They want all these things like, tell me when this happens, tell me when that happens. I'm like, I'm going to tell you when the register rings. How about that? You don't need any other stuff. Just count the money. The brands, the lack of infrastructure capability that they have and how proud they are of it is partly, I think, what is shocking sometimes, right? Like when I look at these companies I used to deal with, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself, we make you, from the time you get an order, the 90 days in, 90 days later, you're 50% faster to get that order, to get tracking number on it. Now, I'm not a private equity guy, right? But I talked to one the other day, and here's what his translation of that was. So you're telling me you turn that into cash 50% faster. Hey, I guess you're right, because they paid for it. He's like, that's huge. The other big outcome that we see is, on average, a manufacturer sees a 3.58% increase, or X times, increase in how many SKUs their customers buy, because it's available. So the benefits are big. The biggest question I always get asked is, the biggest statement I get is, I talk to my customers, they don't want to use Portal. And I go, who'd you call? I called our old customer down the street. He's awesome. Does he have a computer? I don't know. He probably doesn't want a Portal. It's not for him. But there's a thing called survivor bias. Have you guys ever heard of that before?
Oh, yeah.
If all you offer is phone call and email, that's all you're ever going to get.
Yeah.
But how many people are you blocking? When we were the distributor, 90% of our transactions when we sold went to our B2B portal for 200 plus brands. So when brands tell me we don't want it, I go, that's interesting. They wanted it when they bought from us. Interesting.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people, like, I had to order some brake pads the other day, and someone was like, oh yeah, you got to call XYZ over it. Well, I'm like, I'm not. No. I need a functional website where I can see if they have things in stock. And of course, it doesn't tell you if anything's in stock. I paid for faster shipping because I have a track day this weekend. Nothing, no confirmation email, nothing. Yesterday, I think I get an email that's like, hey, we got your order, we're working on it. I'm like, oh, okay. Amazon tells me like where the driver lives 10 seconds after I buy this thing. And yet here I am, still no brake pads, running out of time, starting to panic.
Track day's coming up.
Yeah, it's going to be fine though. It's going to be fine. It always is. But I love any type of infrastructure here.
People assume that B2B, that's tolerable. It's not. You know, I'm scared of all these older manufacturers. Look, most buyers now are millennials. They don't want to call you. They don't even like talking to people. So your brand's going to get passed along and by, you know? I hate talking to anybody at a company. I'm like everybody else. You do your research, you do your stuff, then you look around and you try and find it, right? Well, B2B, there's one major difference between B2B and B2C that I often see as an error that manufacturers put together. They think that they're the same. They have tremendous similarities, but the percentage difference on the outside, once you get to those are gigantic, right? The biggest one is this. In B2B, no one is shopping. Nobody. Someone's paying that person to go source a product. It's a job. It's a task. How fast you make that task open to close, that person can move on and do something else that's generating money for that person that is paying that person to buy that part from you. They're not shopping. It's utility. It's utilitarian. It is not shopping. Your marketing should not go to your B2B people, because generally the other thing it is, almost every transaction that person logged in to get, that product, it's already sold. There's no add-on opportunity. There's no upsell generally. Sometimes there is, but for the most part, there's not. Get them their parts, get them out. Your consumer site should be your catalog, where you have all of the things that go together, because the consumer is going to see that, and your retailers will use that to learn, right? B2B is utility. Let me get in and out as fast as possible. Your social media should be your hype machine. That's where you make all the noise. Don't get them twisted. Don't make all your noise in your B2B, because people are there to work. They don't want to hear your bullshit. They just want to buy their parts and move on. They don't care. They just want to buy.
That's another great example of survivor bias too, right? Because it's like you're not thinking about the B2B buyer, the purchaser somewhere. But if Jamie says, hey, you need to go source a bunch of brake pads or whatever, it's like, okay, I have two choices. I can call this guy. He's never going to call me back. That's going to take forever. I got to get Janet on the line. I got to remind him about the free cookie thing. I don't want to deal with that. Or I've already logged onto the site. I bought 500 of them and we're done with this. And now I can go stand around for the rest of the day.
I'm going to give you another twist that I think a lot of people forget. That is a very easy thing for you to do. Now I'm going to put yourself in a shop, garage, somewhere, right? Do you think the person that's building the vehicle or making decisions is one that's always buying the parts? No. Do you think the person that's buying the parts understands always what a brake pad is? They don't care. They've been given a task. Go find this and buy it. That's not where your marketing translates, right? That is an action. Somebody's performing a task. Move out of the way. Let them do it. Let them make the order. So a lot of times when you think about the B2B purchasing experience, because I traveled all over the United States, we went into shops, right? As a WD, it used to be back in the day, all you could think about was, I want to be the first call. When they think they need brake pads, call Motovicity. That evolved to, I want to be the first click. So as I was going and walking into hundreds of shops, I used to look at what they did. I'd walk back and stand and I'd watch, who's your purchaser? Who buys this stuff? Can I watch? And I'd watch their behavior. And I realized the most important thing to be in B2B is the top left tab on the computer screen. Generally, the purchaser's got two monitors. It's almost always desktop, okay? And you want to be the screen over here, because that means you're the most important. So one unique thing we did with MidwayPlus is I knew that as brands were going out to solve these problems, they're going to think, I'm going to buy a portal. That's what I'm going to get. But I knew the one critical problem. I don't care who you are, you're not going to get that spot. It's not convenient. Could you imagine if you had to source staples, supplies? Let's not talk about anything fun because it's work, right? Let's go to something really basic. Toilet paper, you got to buy it for this building, paper ass gaskets, all that stuff, right? You don't care about any of that stuff. You just want to get it done. Would you be willing to log into a portal for every one of those suppliers throughout your day?
No.
So you're not. So the problem when a manufacturer makes a portal, and I don't care how sexy your brand is, when you're all alone, you're all alone. You're not going to get that left spot. So what we did at MidwayPlus is, I realized the manufacturers are going to run into a problem. And it was really tough to figure out because everything we do is for the manufacturers. They have to have a community space. So our portal, if you could imagine, if you took all the manufacturers' portals out there and you just put them together, yet the manufacturer has full control like they do on a standalone. They set all their own pricing. They set all their own rules. They select their audience. They invite their customer to work with them. And that customer, even though it's a portal that has more than one brand, they do not have access to those brands. Now, if they get turned on, they can start purchasing in 10 minutes, right? But it's restricted access inside a general area. That brings the convenience where that same buyer who had to buy a new set of heads can also go in and buy the head studs on one order. We make it to where you can put one purchase order together. The brands can't see each other's orders. It's all blocked out. But to the buyer, it's very similar to shopping as a WD. They can go in, they can buy their stuff, they put it through, and when they can pick the freight, this supplier I want it overnight, this one I want this, they see all their pricing. When they hit pay, we split it all up. We drop that into this ERP, that into this ERP, confirmations come back. To the buyer, it's one order. To the brand, it's one order. So what we did is we created a unified platform that it puts all the portals together because you're not going to keep their eyeballs. They're going to forget the password. They're going to forget all those things. They're not going to log in. You're never going to win that game.
How has adoption been? I mean, this sounds like it solves a lot of problems for a lot of folks. Talk through. You're scaling this business up. Like, how are we doing over there?
We're doing great. You know, I will share with you, running a company and starting at a company where, you know, at Motovicity when I got there in 2005, I think we did $5 million in sales, right? And we grew that 20x. I thought I knew everything. You know, I didn't know how hard it is to start a company from scratch, especially a brand new idea, bringing some idea to market. Wow. We're thankfully past the point of the beginnings where I had to sleep in another room where my wife was like, "You're an idiot." I'm now back allowed in the same bedroom. Things are going well. Like, it was tough. You know, I thought this product worked for everybody, and it could, but I learned a valuable lesson in the beginning, towards the beginning. It doesn't work for everybody. The brand leadership has to have the right attitude. They've got to care about their customer. All brands care about their product, but not all brands care about their customer. In B2B, it's all about trust. Every single thing that I'm buying, we're selling back and forth, that person's purchasing that to either install on a vehicle or sell to somebody else. I want to know that you got my order. That's trust. I want to know it was in stock. That's trust, because I have to then make up for the mistakes that you made. So trust is everything in B2B, right? In the beginning, what I didn't understand was manufacturers, I'd ask them a question. Tell me the last major investment you made to your customers. We bought an ERP. Oh, how did that help them? I don't know. In the beginning, it was hard to get brands to understand that you can't just buy something and it'll instantly make you money. Ours is a tool. You know, we don't swing the hammer, we give you the hammer. We'll help tell you how to use it. So the first couple of years were brutal. We're doing pretty well now. We've, we surpassed some milestones that I thought were, in the very beginning, I thought, oh, those will happen in a month. And then I realized, well, I hope they ever happen. So we've got to a place now where it's doing very, very well.
Tell us, where does this head? What's the scale of it? Like, what percentage of what you think your maximum growth is?
I think we're just at the very, very beginning. I mean, honestly, product market fit, the product is massive, right? And we built it from scratch. We control everything. I've got 6 major rollouts to this product, and I'm only on 2. I want to be at 6. And I think when I'm at 6, the end-all be-all goal is this. What I think should be is that buying B2B should be as easy as buying a cup of coffee at Starbucks. That's how easy it should be. Now, getting there is going to be just tough. So I've just started to scratch the surface. And now we have enough data where I can actually pull back and I can see what it's doing, which I didn't have that before. And it was really shocking. I was happily surprised. I set out with a couple questions, and they were, what everybody asks us. Can I make more money? Will it help increase how many SKUs I sell? Does the marketing work? Does this really replace man hours? And I went through a very strict setup of, if it tells me it doesn't, I'm going to say it doesn't. I'm not going to fib. And we put together a collection of white papers that explained, because we own all the data, right? So we can see everything. And the behavior changes from the buyers is amazing. I think that we're just at the beginning of the product starting to tip.
Your customer, I want to make sure it's clear, is the manufacturer.
Yeah.
Yet the buyers live on this platform. Right? You just talked a lot about the buyer and buyer behavior. How did they get there? Explain that part of this.
So I used to work with all the manufacturers as a WD, and I listened to all the things they wanted. And you couldn't do them. It'd be like, I want your customer list. I learned real early. I gave somebody the customer list. All of a sudden, all my customers are gone. I'm like, what the hell? And I learned you don't give anybody the customer list. Manufacturers also want to tell you which customers you can sell to. And it's hard. You're sitting on inventory as a distributor, and your job is to get that off the shelf. And when somebody else from the outside is telling you, oh, that part you have here, I need you to sell that only to these people. And you're like, oh, but that guy bought the most. A critical component that I realized was brands need control. So inside this infrastructure, it's an invite-only product. The only way a purchaser, a buyer gets into the ecosystem is they have to be invited by one of the brands. That's the only way a buyer gets in. We invite no one in. And the way that we work with the buyers is, we're your best partner ever. They're out there to help you, but I can't talk to you. My silence is my power, because we don't take a rip of the transaction. So let's say you've got, as an example, Jegs in there, right? And let's say Jegs is doing $1 million a year. That doesn't mean anything to us. And you don't want it to mean anything. We don't play favorites. I have no reason to love Jegs more than some other little guy. And we don't talk to anybody because you'd never want the brand to think that we're influencing their business. It's a fair market. It's a fair, free trade. We talk to the manufacturers. The manufacturers are the ones that pay us. And we build the infrastructure to make the buyers and the manufacturers' interaction easier. So the customer is the brand, and our loyalty stays with the brand.
What's the advantage to a buyer that's on this platform? And I know the answer is a direct relationship with a manufacturer. You are a distribution expert. What about the other distributors in this game? Are you stealing market share from them, or is this a new sales avenue for the brand?
That's a great question. You know, I have observations. I couldn't give you hard data on it yet because, you know, I'd love to have a more informed answer, but here's what I think. When I look at brands that we sold as a distributor, and I thought we knew these brands, right? We sold them for 15 years. And I got the same brand now using MidwayPlus. And when I look at their customers, I go, who's that? Never had access to that group before. It's a complete, what I learned was brands hold their most important customers tight to their chest. Smart. So I don't think that cannibalizes anything. But I will share with you some feedback that I've received from manufacturers. And none of this is meant to, in any way, belittle distributors, because I think distributors rock. And there's distributors that use our platform. There are multiple distributors that have interconnections in our system because the benefit to the buyer is they're 50% faster to get that order out. That's a big deal. Also, the manufacturer makes almost zero errors because the order goes in the exact right way. It's perfect. It's clean. It's the best order. So as an old buyer, I used to send purchase orders to manufacturers. They'd call me 3 days later and you say, your price is wrong. And I go, man, really? Okay, I got to reissue a PO, go reissue this thing. I got labor cost. The price is perfect every single time. So the advantage as a buyer is it's clean. We don't influence anything. We don't say like, hey, you should buy this over that, or this is a better deal. None of that happens. So to the buyer, it's just clean. But here's what I've heard from manufacturers. That when you think about the distribution network, right? One manufacturer, what they did is it's hard to get new product out in the market. From an old distributor, if you came to me and you said, hey, I got all these new parts I want you to buy. The first thing that pops in my head is, how long is that going to take to sell? Because I don't know what market research you did or demand, but I'm expected to pick up $50,000 of your new product that I have no idea if it sells. And I'm being measured by the board of directors on the cubic inch profit. And I'm looking at that new product going, oh boy. And I ignore your email and I ignore your phone call because I don't want it. I want to keep selling the A's and the B's. That's what I want to sell. That's what's making us the money. I got to spend my inventory, right? So manufacturers are using this to get their new product to market because they can get the wide audience of all their buyers, and they will find a home. And then what they're doing is they then take that data, and when they go to that distributor and they go, we'd like you to buy our new product. The distributor goes, no. They go, we sold 4,000 of them. Oh, really? Yeah, we already sold 4,000. It's a good part. I see that as an opportunity for both channels. Now, some might say that's terrible because that's business a distributor could have had, but you wouldn't have took it anyway. Most distributors don't want new stock. The other thing I heard a manufacturer say is it's a little bit of the dirty side of being WD. And it's nobody's trying to be mean. It's just the nature of the beast. You're there to move widgets. Doesn't matter what brand's on there, right? I've got an inventory of $20 million and I got to spend that 4 times a year. At some point, your opinions have to change about what's got to move. So let's say that you make a water and another brand makes a water. The market demands this water. That's what they want. The best thing you want on the shelf is what the market wants. Nobody wants your water. And I put it on the shelf. And on top of it, almost all of the product now is purchased on the distributor's website. You're not even going to see it. When you put in the part number, I'm only going to show you this, or you look at a category, right? This is all you're going to see, which means, unfortunately for you, the brand, the chance to ever get in front of that customer and show them your product is hard. So what manufacturers are telling me is they're moving a wider range of SKUs now because more visibility. So the feedback I've heard about that as far as cannibalizing, poaching, all those different things, I don't know where the truth lies in there. Ultimately, it's up to the brand. We insinuate no bias. If you want to sell through distribution, you want to sell direct to consumer, you want to sell direct to retailers. I believe there's a happy mix between those three. I think every brand should have that split healthy. And I think it benefits everybody. The retailer would be like, oh, you can't compete with me and sell your product. No. That brand should sell their product at the highest margin, absolute highest price. Don't discount it. That's naughty. You can give away freight, but if you got a MAP pricing policy, I think freight should be included because now you're directly competing with it because I got to give freight away. But when they sell that part, they're making the fattest margin they get. And what I would love manufacturers to do is take that margin and take 10% of that and put it back into direct-to-consumer advertising, okay? Which is going to trickle down to the retailers as well. The retailers, you should sell to your highest value add partners, people that represent your brand, people that you know that when you go to market, you're proud of them to be your network. And you sell them your wide range of products, okay? Distributors, A movers, B movers, things that I need overnight. I need it fast, right? Things are going to commonly go in a build, like I have 20, 30 products, right? But maybe the retailers get a little bit different program when it comes to the things the distributors aren't willing to stock. Like let's say you're having a hard time moving your superchargers or something like that, right? Maybe the dealer that's going to install it anyway, maybe they should get a different program. But it gives you the opportunity to dial that in. But I think from a manufacturer side, if you have a consumer good that you can do it yourself, ready to purchase, I think a healthy split in that matrix is if you can get 40% of your sales to go direct to consumer, that's incredible. That's a lot of marketing money that can trickle back down. New product development, all the things. And then you're going to split between the retailer and the wholesaler, that other chunk, right? And you're going to move it back and forth depending on what's going on in the market.
Brian, give me the margin on a aftermarket part at each level as an industry. Where are we at?
Boy, that's a good question. I mean, it's hard to say because every manufacturer has different margins. They do. But I'm going to stick with something that, let's say it's the manufacturer engineered it, designed it, and built it, okay? They did not repackage someone else's product, but there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying they put the R&D in, they produced it, they made it. I'm going to use them as an example. Generally, when they're going to sell that product direct to consumer, I think if they make 60 points, it's not bad. I've heard of more, I've heard of less, right? And they don't make it across the board. That's one thing about when you go downstream or upstream in the channel is they want the pricing set all the same. That's hard. You don't have the same margin and everything. Retailers. You've got online drop shippers, you've got hybrids, and then you got brick and mortar shops. Brick and mortar shops, if you're giving them a solid 15 to 20 points, they're not happy. They're not. But it's livable. And I think that if the manufacturer can build a free freight program to assist in that based off a little bit extra margin in there, smart. Online drop shippers, generally somewhere in the 10% range of what they're going to make off of it, from what I've seen, my experience. Wholesale distributors, when I first got into it, we made 35% in 2005. That's what I saw. By the time we sold, we were making 12.5%. It's a lot of exercise for not a lot of results. It's a tough business, wholesale is. So each one of those channels, if you went to a distributor and you said, I got a 60-point brand, you'd more than likely wind up having your brand be 12.5%. Because the distributor's going to go, never heard of it, 12.5. Because the thing you run into is, let's say that you do have the 60 points. The second they open up another distributor, the distributor's going to take it to 12.5, and you look like an idiot, right? The margin's hard to pull as a WD. That answer your question?
Yeah. I'm in the 50 range is what I thought you would say. And from a manufacturer, I didn't know how deep it cut at the WD level. That's got to hurt.
Yeah.
And I'll say that's why the negotiation for a 0.1% is a big effing deal.
Quick pays, man. Quick pays were huge, And then I found out after we sold that most people give their quick pay even though they didn't pay them on time. I thought, oh my gosh, I did this all wrong. When you're a WD, you got to find all kinds of different ways to make money. It's tough. But that toughness, that pedigree is what helped me understand how to do better operations, which is now translated directly over to MidwayPlus. Because when I look at how a brand operates, I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, they'll generally build their product perfect. $500,000 CNC machine. They got this thing over here that makes a little laser etch in it. It's fantastic. They got engineers, they got everything else. Did you take a picture of the part? I forgot. How much does it weigh? I don't know. Did you write a description for it? Working on it. How are you packaging it? We're going to put it in a White Castle box. Perfect. There's so much opportunities for a manufacturer to make a great overall product, right? Often what a manufacturer does is they focus on the thing that they hand you. But to me, the brand is the whole thing, How thick is the cardboard? Everything gets shipped these days. How about put a little bit more in there? That way, because when somebody opens it up, they go, oh, it's the thing that I spent my disposable income on. Because let's be honest, nobody in this industry needs any of this shit. If I'm going to buy a $1,500 turbo system and it's wrapped in paper towel, the brand, look bad. Everything today gets shipped. It should be part of your product design. So I think that when I look at the brands, you have so much opportunity to collect more of the funds that you're getting paid with, right? When they'll say, yeah, but if I ship in that extra box, it costs more. I go, yeah, how many returns you get? I don't know. I did as a WD. We knew by brand. We repackaged 35% of the parts that came to us. They came in, it's already in a box. We have to go like this. That box is going to blow away. In another box, wrap it up. Instructions, basics, do the fundamentals. And then when you're getting your order, be consistent. I think the brands that are consistent are the best ones. Like I said earlier, B2B is trust, okay? Don't tell me how fast you can ship something once. Tell me how you do it every time. And if it's 3 days, it's 3 days. If it's 8 days, it's 8 days. But when I put that into my calculator, when I got to buy from you, I know that I got to do this 8 days before the build. But if your delivery time or order confirmation's like this, man, how am I going to make up for that? If you're a brand, focus on what you can do every single day. Order confirmations, we're going to do them all on the same day. We're going to ship everything in 3 days, 3 business days, okay? If you get the order in before 1:30, counts towards that day, okay? Don't ship 10% of the parts same day, some of them the next day. Do them all the same. Make it consistent, because that instills trust, consistency.
Stack rank this for a brand that's like, oh man, our box is terrible. We don't have instructions. We're doing all of these things terribly. Sometimes I go to UPS, sometimes I don't. I think people know they have these problems. I do think some of them try to pretend like, well, ours is this is the best brake pad, so people have to buy it. And it's like, no, not really. I would actually buy the second best brake pad if it shows up on time and it gets here every time and it looks better and there are instructions and all that stuff. So like, for you, especially because you see a lot of the manufacturers now, where would you start? If someone's just like, has a product, everything else is terrible, rank it.
You've got your core data when the part is produced, right? I think of data as usually in a couple different silos. You've got your fancy marketing data, you got your fancy fitment data, and you got your raw, I can't put it in my computer data unless you give it to me. I need to know how big the box is, because I can't put it into my system to load it to start calculating shipping. Okay, so I think we have 8 data points that you must put into our system, because that translates into being able to make a damn order. Those are your most critical. 1 picture, a weight, gotta have those. Not hard, okay? Don't get all fancied out with, I gotta have all these metadata for marketing. You'll get there. I gotta have all my vehicle fitment. Look, if people are buying it right now, be happy somebody's buying the thing. Work on that later. Packaging. When you buy something right now, yourself personally, do you do any builds yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, great, perfect. When you bought that, what's the last thing you purchased?
Oh, bunch of stuff. Let me see. Car related, brakes.
Okay, what'd you get?
AP brakes.
Wow, baller.
Well, yeah. We do pretty well here at the Automotive Advantage. Yeah.
Pretty much rolling it.
But wait. What kind of vehicle did you put them on?
Corvette.
Okay, it's not on a Civic, because I see AP on Civic sometimes. I know that's a big stretch, right? Nothing wrong with Civics, just saying. Sometimes you see it on there.
Yeah.
So, all right, so your overall pack. When that package showed up, what did it look like? Do you remember?
Yeah, I mean, it's not great. The box that the calipers come in is pretty flimsy, pretty old school design, typical.
Yeah, it's got the felt, it's got the tape in the. I mean, and it's thin, right? Like it's.
Yeah, it's not great. The first time you take them out, and then when you put them on, and then you put your old brakes back in it, it's already collapsed in on itself, and it's a disaster. Yeah. Rotors always come in rotor boxes, which are way too small for.
Oh, that's what I was thinking of. I was thinking rotor boxes, right? Because if we had a thing at Motovicity, if you can shake the box, that's coming out. Mm-hmm. So if you feel it move in the box, it's coming out of that box.
Yep.
So a note for manufacturers, if you can shake your box and it slides around, that's going to puncture the side of the cardboard and come flying out. Every manufacturer's like, well, how well do we package? I'd play him the intro to Ace Ventura, where he's doing the UPS delivery shtick, where he's putting it in the elevator and it's closing out. And because especially from people in other countries, they're like, how did all these packages get destroyed? I'm like, well, that's easy. Watch this. And they go, that can't be real. I'm like, it's not that bad, but it ain't far.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Would you have cared if that box had colors on it and a logo and a graphic?
I mean, I am a branding guy, so I do notice these things. Here's a funny secondary thing to this. The other thing I got yesterday was a remote tuning device from HP Tuners. Okay. And immediately, it's like, oh man, this is a nice box. It's got the, it just looks nice. You're like, immediately feel better that it's better. So yes, to me, the branding does make a big difference. But even if it's a white box, but it's the nice one, right? Like I bought a pair of AirPods the other day. Apple box, very nice. The fitment is perfect, like when you slide them onto each other, and you're like, okay, I see where my $400 went. I'm understanding that. So, yeah, I to me personally, the branding does matter.
Did it help with your install?
No, not at all.
Okay, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Would you rather it showed up and everything in there's perfect and you feel like I'm about to put this in my car and nothing's damaged? Or would you rather have fanciness on the box?
Yeah, well, because there are a lot of parts that show up very fancy that then don't fit. So I'd much rather fit, of course.
The days of, what was it, showcasing, what was that? Like when you had the racks and you'd walk through like at the grocery store and you'd see all the packages on there like, oh, wow, look at that. There's a Flowmaster exhaust, right? They're gone. That doesn't exist anymore. Having high-end packaging that's glossy but not protective. If you can afford both, good for you. That's great. My thought when it comes to packaging is, will it make the journey? And what a lot of manufacturers think is they say, that's not my responsibility, it's the customer I sold it to. And I go, yeah, but your part's in the box. When that person gets that package, when you got those calipers right there, and I'm pretty sure AP's not cheap, right? I never bought any, but I think they're a couple bucks.
They're very pricey, yeah.
If they would have had a scratch on them, would you have been upset with AP?
Yeah.
Even though, did they sell them to you directly or did you buy them through somebody else?
I bought them through someone else, but
Would you have been mad at AP?
of course.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the point. The brand needs to realize that you're the final production. It better be good. And all I mean by good is the thing you need to pass is I take it out of the box and it looks good. Perfect, because I'm throwing the box away. But I want it to go on my car. I want it in my build and I want it to be what I bought. The thing I used to challenge all the manufacturers with, as I say, you ever bought anything from yourself? Just you. You're the owner. When's the last time you bought something for yourself? I never thought of that. Go do it now. And I want you to go from a new experience. You've never bought from me before. Go do it. And you're about to see the chaos that goes through your company to get you that order. And you can't say it to you, the owner. Have somebody else do it. Because you're going to see how painful that is to get something from your company. Usually, not always. If it's B2B, it's probably painful. If it's B2C, it's probably not as painful. You know, you're going to buy it off the website. It's usually not linked to an inventory, so maybe it's not there. Maybe you got to get a phone call back, it's out of stock. But what I really want you to see is, I want you to see how that package shows up.
Yeah, and the lingering effects of bad packaging are hard to explain until it's happened to you. But I had a drive shaft show up one time that was 85% out of the box when it arrived. It had just punctured through the side, yoke came out, whole thing sticking out the side. It is bent now and totally destroyed. And I'm like, you know what? I am going to return this, obviously, but I'm just going to buy from someone else now. I'm not even giving you a second chance because clearly you've never cared if this arrived to me or not.
It's not a thought like that, right? I'm not mad at the brands, but there's this piece where it's, all you got to do is put yourself in your customer's shoes. That's it. That's it. Is that what you'd want? We used to get pallets of drive shafts and they'd all be sticking out. And I thought to myself, these things are carbon fiber, they're $1,000 a piece. There's no packaging inside of them. And I felt bad for the person that was going to receive this. It's like, and we used to get phone calls from customers like, you would not believe how this showed up my building. This is unacceptable packaging. I'm like, you should have saw when we got this. Like, it's, so from a branding, you were talking about like, what do they got to do? Just put yourself in your own customer's shoes. What's the bare minimum to get it out the door? Decent packaging, doesn't have to be perfect. Spend an extra couple bucks on your insurance with your carrier. That way when there's a problem, don't put that back on your customer, okay? Have a website. It doesn't have to be a transactional site, okay? But have a website that explains your product reasonably. If it's your brand, you probably know it. Spend some time on it. Go part by part and do your best to clean up your data, to make it purchasable. And have an email set up that has an auto reply that if I fire off an email to you, you set me the expectation of what's going to happen, right? If I send you a thing and I got a question, you're probably not going to answer me in a timely manner. But that auto reply should tell me. Generally, we reply to everything within 48 hours because I now know I'm not going to get an answer for 48 hours. I'm still pissed, but not as mad as I am as just putting it in the abyss. The bare minimum, right? That's what I think you should do. Focus on the fundamentals.
I got a header shipment story, but we'll leave that for another day.
Everyone it's crazy in this industry how many bad shipping experiences there are.
Brian, it's October 1st, 2025. It's the start of the fourth quarter. You know what that means. You run businesses in the automotive aftermarket. everybody's been down for this whole year as an average. They got to make their fourth quarter number. The race is on. Talk about the seasonality so that the listeners know that this is how this goes, but maybe throw in some ideas on a fourth quarter run and how you would manage this year.
All right. Well, seasonality. I've had a couple different perspectives to look into seasonality. Now, obviously, there are brands that do not follow it. Windshield wipers start selling as soon as it gets dark out. When it's the first like mild snow, that's when they start going. That's not normal. Everything else that I've ever sold followed the exact same path. I never changed it. I just rode that wave. Okay. And can I borrow the back? Can I just get a piece of paper? I'll just draw it really easy. If I used to keep track of every single manufacturer we sold, and I had giant databases. I still have them, and I still build these things, right? To model them out. But if this is January, and this is December, and this is the midway mark, you're gonna look like this. It generally, January, not much.
Put up a little bit.
Right there.
Okay.
When you're just starting out, it's not busy. Really, for us as a distributor, and we imported brands and sold brands, so we got to see a different perspective on things. We didn't just have it. And then I worked in a garage installing a lot of these parts. It followed the exact same path. February, if it gets warm, and what I mean by warm is here in Michigan, if you start rolling, the first time you roll your window down, now I want to buy parts. That first window cracks when they started coming into the garage. Okay? Sometimes you get that in February, but not all the time. So February is hit or miss if you're going to seal it. If I had to bet on it, I'd say you're going to miss. March, you're going to start to happen, right? That's when it starts to climb. March, April, May are generally the biggest months. And you want to have all your ducks in a row to solve all your customers' problems right then and there. If I was a manufacturer, I'd make sure I had good relief inventory ready to go out that door. Because once you pass that time, the person that wanted it here, they don't want it over here. They already bought something. They just bought your competitor's product. That's what happened. You don't recapture that, okay? June generally starts to flatten out. July usually like dips. August it goes like this. September, October. And if you have the capability to pick, pack, and ship, and you have the ability to take money from somebody, you're usually going to see a cyber holiday spike. Big one. The cyber holiday was usually the biggest single moment for us. And Christmas did nothing. What I speculated on was cyber was every guy out there would go buy generally the most expensive thing they wanted, the one single thing. So like coilovers, turbo, supercharger, the biggest ticket item because they might get 20% off of it. So you're fighting for that super big ticket, and it's for themselves. Everybody thinks that cyber purchase is for Christmas. It probably is at Walmart, but in your wife's buying it, right? Like, but if it's from what I was seeing is nobody needed a new carbon ceramic racing clutch for Christmas. You'd see it spike, bink, and then you see it trail down, and then it just goes into the December, January, February, like doldrums. That's when it's like that. So that is, in my mind, that is the seasonality of this industry. For most, not all. So with that said, we're starting Q4, okay? If I'm a brand, I want to look at my back orders. If my back orders are going up, somebody wants to buy that product. You might want to pump up your production a little bit. Most stocking distributors are looking at what they're going to start buying for the next year, right? SEMA, you've got your plan together. PRI, you kind of ironed it out. Usually the way it worked was you went to PWA, you negotiated with the brand first. Whatever you wanted never happened usually, but you got to say all the stuff, right? SEMA, you got to renegotiate the whole entire thing again. And then PRI, usually you made the deal happen. it seemed like. I think where the market's at right now, it's probably going to stay exactly the same. You're going to see the same months, right? You're going to see it, whatever your October was, or sorry, whatever your September is, October is going to be close to that, and you're going to. It trails off, right? It's you're not going up, but it's going to. The best thing you can do is have it drop 1%, 1%, 2%. You're doing well. And really, at this time of the year, I think the energy is focused on what are you going to do for February, March, April, May next year? Because when I looked at it from a distributor standpoint, I knew that if I wanted to hit a certain number, I needed a certain amount of inventory, and I had a budget. So I'd go to the brand and say, I've got, I don't know, $1 million. But that's got to go between 10 brands. How much of that piece do you want? So right now, I think in my old world, it was planning on what you're going to do for the next year already. But I think you're probably going to see the market stay the same. I mean, if interest rates probably change, you might see some people come up off their wallet. But I think most people are shopping right now.
I'm going to throw you a related question. Private equity's been kind of quiet this year. I know you watch, you talk, you are consulted with to give your insight. How does private equity play here in the next quarter and then maybe in 2026? Give me your forecast there.
Smart guys. We don't play on the same golf course, so I don't know exactly what they're up to. They're pretty bright, though. I think a lot of people that wanted to sell their company in COVID that didn't, they still want to. They got that taste. It's kind of like, you got excited to eat something and somebody took it away and you're like, I still want that. I think there's still some people out there that want to sell. I don't think as many transactions will ever go through like at the tail end there, where it was like, if I made that one pen, I could sell it to somebody for $1 million. It seemed like, right? You hear these deals and you're like, oh my gosh, that's insane. Really made me wish I wouldn't have sold Moto early. I should have sold it late because it got crazy. I think that some of them are going to probably acquire a couple more brands where the owner operator is tired. They're ready to go. But I think for a lot of these guys out there in PE world, I think that you got to focus on selling the product yourself. And I don't mean doing the transaction yourself, but the marketing should be coming from you. I would say that to every brand. No one's going to care about your product or your brand more than you do. And I tried my ass off at selling or doing marketing B2B. It's hard. You're trying to push a rope up a hill. The ultimate solution to B2B is demand. And demand's created at the top. And a wholesaler doesn't have any ability to influence that top. The retailers have a hard time influencing that top. The brand has the biggest capability. Generally, though, and I know this must sound like complete blasphemy, but I've heard that marketing takes time. I know not everybody thinks that, but generally 3 to 6 months of your marketing efforts before you start to see first blood, right? If I was in B2B, if I was a PE, and I'm fortunate enough to work with some of them, the ones I see that are killing it, they're advertising like crazy, man. They're killing it. People are up. But they're advertising to the consumer and driving that sale all the way down funnel, right? I would hope I see more of that from the PE groups because I think that's overall good for the entire industry. It awakes everybody. I think if you're trying to sell your company, your PE-backed company right now, I don't know. That's a different golf course. I don't have any expertise on that one.
I like the continued kind of emphasis on the marketing side, because I agree with you wholly that most companies in this space focus on the product and then the next product and the next product and the next product. And even in the room, even in the team meetings, it's many engineers, many product people, many purchasing people, and then one marketing person with no say and no budget most of the time. And we as an industry have done a very bad job of marketing, because we sometimes look at it as, oh, well, I just have to outmarket another bad marketer. That'd be easy to do. But it's like, no, you have to also outmarket the entire firearms industry and kayak industry and mountain bike industry and everyone else, right? So I like that even if PE wants to come into the space, it's like, hey, man, the products are good. You already have that sorted. Go do some marketing, please.
There are more options to market than there's ever been. I mean, it's like it's the glory days, in my opinion. Like, before, you put an ad in a magazine and you had no idea what it did. Now you can hire a company and be like, what did it do? What didn't it do? I mean, that's amazing. The information you can get back is monumental. Look, I talk to brands, I say, how much you spend in marketing? And they'll say, oh, we spent about $150,000. I say, well, what'd you do? And they go, well, we go to 2 trade shows and we do some events. And I say, what are you doing for marketing? Like, I get it. Those things are kind of like the staples, but I don't know if this is true or not, but what I find with manufacturers is the ones that generally build the best products have no marketing. And if you ask the person that made it, they'll go, it's the best one. Of course you should buy it. And I was thinking to myself, but how do I know that? Mm-hmm. How do I know that? Well, word will spread. From who? I mean, why? Why? If you've made this amazing product, tell everybody about it. And if you don't have your own internal marketing department, hire one. There are many great options out there. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, we hire a marketing company that helps us, and they're brilliant. The feedback they give is so outside of my own scope of thought. I'm like, oh, that's pretty smart. Why struggle when you can just go to somebody and say, I'm going to allocate $7,000 a month? I mean, it sounds like a lot, but it's really, a lot of brands are doing $10 million. That's not much. It's actually proportionally not much. And I'm a firm believer in, from everything I've seen, the brands that we had as a distributor that were the easiest to sell were the ones that directly marketed to the consumer. You didn't even have to sell the thing. They just flew off the shelf. They were the best. They weren't as high a margin, but it didn't matter. You knew that if you're going to sell this radiator or this radiator, you had to have 3 phone calls about that one, where this one, somebody just said, I want it. That's the one you want. And the brand created all that. They didn't anticipate their channel strategy partners to do the marketing for them. And I think for brands, it should be a function. It should just be like you engineering your product. When you're, I mean, I've never been part of a meeting of like what a product costs to get up off the ground. I really don't know. I've heard numbers and I don't know if they're true or not. But if I had any feedback on it from being a distributor and trying to sell these things and watching brands and what we do now, if you're sitting down and you say, okay, I'm going to take a guess, it takes $150,000 probably to get one part off the ground. You should say it's $200,000. Because you got to tell people about it.
I've been in the room many a time where the business case is, we did all the business case, this is what it's going to cost to develop, blah, 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 blah. The only way we can get this business case approved is to put $0 for marketing. Like, well, let me tell you how the business case is going to net out at the end here. No one's going to know this exists, so no one's going to buy it. It's like, well, we can't afford to do marketing to make it work.
Yeah, then I wouldn't even make it part.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it sounds harsh, and I know people do it differently, but I can tell you as a distributor, we talked earlier about those new products, right? If you're coming to me and you want us to put $200,000 new product on the shelf, I'm an enthusiast. I pay attention. If I haven't seen you talk about it anywhere, and I mean for real talk about it, like you've got ads running, you're promoting it, you're making the connection to the consumer on your end, I feel like I'm going to miss out if I don't get that stuff. But if I don't see anything, I feel like a fool buying it. I feel like, oh, I'm your guinea pig to get this out the door? Great. Not doing it.
Well, that is the answer for we don't have marketing for we'll get our WD on the phone. Let's see what he can do to push it. That's the answer, Brian. I mean, just as an industry, you know that.
Yeah, and you know what I wanted? I wanted a guaranteed sale because, and look, those Wild West days are few and far between. Like when we got real serious and we had a board to answer to, they don't care. And rightfully so, they're not supposed to. I couldn't say, hey, I invested, I'd look like an idiot going in there and go, I put in $1.2 million in new product 2 months later. How's the $1.2 million doing? We have 1.1. You'd look like a fool. And you're risking your own job, right? So I understand the manufacturer wants you to do that, but you're putting other people in the line at risk of their own career. So it's smarter to say, I don't want it, because the board is watching you based off of your numbers and spinning it. And they got that one number they love, EBITDA. And EBITDA doesn't care about your new product. So I believe this. The easier you are to buy and work for, the more you're going to sell. When we look at the brands that are using our product and we see that their same customers who are buying from before are buying on the platform now, and those people are spending 20% more, why? Because it's easier to purchase. Make your product easier to purchase, and that means market it, because that's easier to purchase. For me, it was like very simple. I'll give you one. Mike at Mishimoto, smart guy, very smart. He understood that, and he said, you know what? It's my responsibility to market this product. And it's my responsibility to take it back if it doesn't sell. And you know what that did? Every new part he made had a welcome space on my shelf. It was easy because I knew that when he produced a product, he did market research. He looked at the total accessible market. I didn't have to think of any of these things. I said, okay, he's asking us to put a couple $100,000 on the shelf. There's not infinite space and there's not infinite money. Something has to leave. 2 men enter, 1 man go. That's how it works. So you look at other products in your lineup and say, gosh, this one doesn't sell very often, and I'm only making 10 points on it. This other one I make 20 points and it flies off the shelf. He had ample space in our building because it's sold. So I understand the hesitancy. I get it. Marketing, it's tough, man. It is tough. But if you're not willing to invest in your own marketing, your own product, why would anybody else?
Brian, clearly you're an expert in this space, and you created MidwayPlus as an extension of yourself. How much overlap is there with your current customers, clients that want Brian Lounsberry time in the package in addition to the service on the portal?
I wish there was more. I wish that some of the brands would let me in, like open the door and let me give feedback. I do have a little bit of a problem telling them your baby's ugly. I don't mean it offensively, right? Like you and I had a conversation the other day and you gave me some feedback. I went and told my partners in the office, he goes, wow, that's so harsh. And I go, no, it's fantastic. He told me my baby's ugly. Thank you. Because I can make an adjustment from that. I'm not saying that's why they don't work with me on it. There's this, when I started this project, something that blew me away was what people thought I was. People thought I was a sales manager. It shocked me. People were like, I got job offers for sales manager. I'm like, sales manager? Gosh, I haven't done that in a long time. I didn't even think I was that great at it. And they were like, well, what else do you know how to do? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I mean, I built the ERP system with these other people. I went from the rooter to the tutor of the company. I mean, my job was to take our budget that we had, which was 0, and turn 0 into a lot. That was tough. creative. So when I watch a brand, I wish I could go in and say, I don't mean to step on anybody's toes. I don't. But have you ever thought of this? Have you ever thought about this? Because if I were in your shoes, you're doing these 5 things, you're killing it with these. These are fantastic. But these 3 things, you're telling businesses to go away. You're scaring off companies. Stop doing these. I wish. I've got a couple companies that welcome me in. It's great. You know, I'll fly to their building. I'll sit down with them. It's awesome. I feel, you know, it's awesome. It's awesome to go in there and they'll share like what they're going through, and then you listen to them and you say, "Have you ever thought of this?" And they're like, "No." Is that important? I'm like, "It seems to be. I mean, the other brands think it's important." It's interesting from the perspective of I've worked with hundreds of brands throughout the years, and I got to watch them all go to market, and I got to watch them all operate, and you got to see the best and the worst. So when somebody tells me something like, "We've got this new program we're putting together," I'll be like, "Oh my God, please don't do that." I've watched mega companies try to do that and burn through. And you know what? Unfortunately, you know what happens to you? You get fired. Because you're the guy that said to do it. So as my business partner tells me, he's like, "Just shut up. Just shut up. Don't tell anybody anything." So, I mean, I do work with some brands. I do try to help them. I helped some brands set up their operations, because they weren't shipping quick enough. And, told them like key important metrics that are, brands look at metrics that I look and go, those are for producing the product. They're not for selling the product. Try and point them in the right direction and say, look at these. These are important. Your audience is important. A brand should be thinking about their B2B audience. Okay? That is critical. Your audience. I don't care if you're selling through a distributor. Do you know how many brands, when we sold Motovicity, do you know how many brands got hurt from that? I didn't think about that. The deal is when we sold, they wanted our company to just cease to exist. There was no transition plan. There was nothing, right? And I'm like, all right, that's what you want. My job is to sell the company. And I thought to myself, well, this distributor that's buying us, we're like fierce competitors. If they have that brand, it'll just move over here. That's not what happened. I go meet these brands and they're like, we lost half our business. I'm like, what? Yeah. All the business you had, we never got it back. I'm like, oh my God, really? And what that taught me was you need to know who your customers are, because those customers didn't stop wanting it. They just didn't have a place to go get it. And I think that for a manufacturer now, whether you go through wholesale distributors, retailers, consumers, you need to know who's buying your product. Now, it's tough when you go through wholesale because they don't want to tell you. But you should at least be investing in your own relationship. It doesn't mean that you do not go to the distributor and say, tell me who buys my product. That's not right. That's their intellectual property. It's very important to them. But at trade shows and events, you should be asking, do you buy my product? Yes. Who do you buy it from? I buy it from X. Great. I'm going to write that down on my list. Can I get your email address? They should be in your network. And when you release a product, tell them. When you have a hiccup, tell them. I think that's a critical thing for manufacturers, because another manufacturer told me that when he got in this industry in 1995, there was like 75 or 95 distributors. And he goes, now there's 4 or 5. You got to look at that and say, how am I going to communicate when there's 2? What if there's only 1? How do I go to market? You got to start thinking of yourself.
MidwayPlus.com. If I go there right now, I can find your index. I can find where the market is up and down, and you're going to be adding more details to that as you develop this out. I just want to kind of put a bow on this, Brian.
So the index, we take all of our manufacturers' information extremely critical and private, right? So we even have it to where all the data actually goes into a separate cloud, and I don't have the keys to it purposely. The only people who have it are the network engineers. I say that because when we released the index, we gave it to the manufacturer's executives and said, here you go, check this out. waited for feedback, questions, and we don't make it public right now. We've thought about it. We've talked about it. And I thought what would be kind of interesting is, how often do you guys put out a podcast?
Once a week.
Once a week. What I'd love to do for right now is, what if I told you every week how the market is? I just tell you, market's up 3%, market's down. 'Cause right now, for us, the market is up 3% month over month. However, that's the B2B side of it. The B2C side of it, because we actually do B2B and B2C. We have a full vertical for the manufacturer if they want. We do a terrible job marketing it, but we do it. And what I think is unique about it is there's multiple manufacturers that use it. And MidwayPlus is more about an engine than anything, right? It's meant to make you efficient. It's really everything I learned being a distributor, packaged into a portal, right? We didn't want to go into consumer. Our customers asked us to do it because they were faster, leaner, and more efficient. And we're like, well, we don't want to. So what we ended up doing was we built an engine that's all together with our core product. We then went to website developers and we said, look, we're not glitz and glamour guys. I can't put lipstick on anything like that. I think the B2B portal's utility and community for the buyer. But I think for the brand, their B2C site is their trophy, right? And I don't think I can make that beautiful piece for them. I think it's too intimate, right? I don't have that skill set. So we went to multiple developers and we said, we have this engine. We want you to build around the outside of it, but it uses the engine. And part of our engine is we actually do all the state sales tax for the manufacturers. They don't have to do it. So it's this huge advantage for them. So we have half a dozen sites up. The retail index, what I think is unique about it is they're all different builders, okay? Same engine that does the transaction. The glitz and the glamour and the marketing and all that stuff, it's multiple opinions on how that's supposed to work. That's down 6.9% month over month. So I think we have a unique view into this, but I think what would be best is I can share it with you once a week.
That'd be great.
You know, you ask me and I'll say, that's what I got. Here it is. We have played around with a little forecasting. The problem I have with forecasting is that I've noticed that people think that's concrete. You said it was going to be here. No, the make-believe wizard said it was there.
Yes.
If I knew that, I would go play cards or something. I'd be rich. So that's what I'll provide to you guys.
That's super generous. We appreciate that. Well, we know our listeners will be tuning in to hear what's going on through your eyes, through your expertise, and we'll gladly share the index. So thank you for that.
Yeah, now they don't have to text each other and be like, how's it feeling out there, up or down, right? They can just kind of get a vibe right out of the gate.
Yeah, and for like our customers, they can, if they want, they can see it like in real time, right? I mean, everything you're going to get is going to be a week old, or you know what I mean? It's like, it's not, but I mean, it's still a pulse, but it's not the fastest pulse. But yeah, it can settle some questions. And I hope that helps people. I worry sometimes that people get let go from companies because they're not meeting the expectations. However, the market is not meeting the expectations. And you can always do better, but sometimes I fear that some of these guys lose their jobs because they're measured unfairly to what's really happening in the world. And I'd hate to see that happen. There's some really good talent out there.
Awesome.
Especially in this market, because most of it's like, well, they look like they're doing good over there. He just bought a new helicopter. It's like, that is not proof of anything.
Just bad spending.
That's proof of credit. Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to measure yourself like at what the Johnsons are building their house down the street, look, it's tough to be a brand. You know, when I think to myself, what would I ever do if I wasn't doing this? I would never want to be a distributor again. That is a tough gig. It's a grind. I think, I'll be a brand. But then I think, you got to sell that stuff. You gotta make people happy. It's not easy to be a brand. You don't control a lot of things and you get measured unfairly on a lot of stuff. The more information a brand can have about what's going on in the world, that they can actually adjust their company, right? Like if you knew the market was up 40%, but you're only up 2%, that's great insight because you might be able to say, gosh, what are we doing wrong? And I see it. The most common thing I see when I look between, if I get a full bird's eye view and I say, what's happening between brands, right? The brands that are generally doing very well, B2B is effort and exercise. A computer will not replace it. People buy from people. Just the way it is. The brands that are usually doing very well, if I'm doing like a workshop with them and we're looking at their data, they're engaged with their customers. And it doesn't take much. We've got like a marketing tool where they can post and it shares. If you post once a week, your engagement with your customers is significantly higher. It's the little tiny things that add up, that compound for the brand to win. I always hear brands say, well, my customers aren't buying as much and this and this. Like, well, you only got 200 customers. Look, there's companies I know that got 2,500. And what that does is it diversifies it out. So where this group is not doing as well, maybe this one will. Big audience, consistency. Think about how your whole entire company operates and focus on being the best, the most reliable, best supplier you can be.
That's the pod.
Thanks for being on here, buddy.
Yep. Thanks, guys.